All right. Hello. Welcome to the Artificially Intelligent Podcast. And I'm going to say it that way because I haven't looked into this, but I'm going to be sneaky. Mike Dalton, who is with us, with Barrett and I, I'll make introductions in a second, came up with the name Artificially Intelligent. And he Googled it and I Googled it and nothing came up. And so we went with it and then somehow Googled it again. And suddenly there were two other podcasts out there. It's like, what the fuck? So what I'm going to do is call this the Artificially Intelligent Podcast. The Artificially Intelligent Podcast. 4 words, put that in the title. And that way, when I create the page now, they say, yeah, this is Artificially Intelligent. Okay, but we're the Artificially Intelligent Podcast. So I'm going to try and make an end around so we can keep the name.
Mm-hmm.
That's the introduction. So welcome to the Artificially Intelligent Podcast, everyone. With me, as always, is Antar Goodwin, musician in Philadelphia.
Indeed.
I am Nathan Timmel, comedian in Iowa, and we have our good friend Mike Dalton, former truck driver in Oconomowoc, Wisconsin.
Indeed.
I didn't ask you how you wanted to be represented, so I just came up with that on the spur of the moment.
Just some guy in Oconomowoc.
Just some guy. Cupcake fan is how I know him. Because the last time he was in my neck of the woods, I took him to a little cupcake place and he bought the place out.
Yeah, that place was fantastic. Most of them made it home.
Well,
what's that? 6-hour drive from your place?
To Oconomowoc? 4. 3 to Madison, so about 4 to Oconomowoc. Yeah.
Okay. Well, so most of them made it.
Yeah. All right. So let's, Barrett and I talked during the week off and we realized that we go down a lot of tangents and it might be nice of us to sort of focus, like try and pick a topic and talk about it for an hour, and we'll see how that goes. This will be the first week sort of attempting that. And
I'm probably the wrong guy to have on here for that.
Well, we'll see how it goes. Well, the topic I came up with is fluid in a sense, because in my mind, the topic is we're living in interesting times. Some people are angry because of this and others, actually, I think politically, both the left and right are angry, but for different reasons. I think they're just angry at one another. And I step back and just sort of like, watch both of them be angry and find it interesting. And I related all of this to religion, and now I'm going to start explaining it, and then we'll start the conversation. So what I find interesting is, let's start with the big religions. You have Judaism, Islam, Buddhism, and Christianity. And they are considered, in a sense, valid because they're so old that we have written documentation of how they were formed, but that's been edited and we're so many centuries away from it that who can really say? So it's a matter of faith. Then we have religions like Mormonism, which we know exactly how it started. So yeah, people believe it, but a lot more people go, but it's fake. Joseph Smith, look what he did with the seer stones and made it up, and then it's bullshit. So it's too new to be considered truly valid. And relating that to politics and today, I find it interesting that we are witnessing, we're not even 6 months out. We're recording on Monday, June 21st. We are 6 months past the January 6th insurrection. And we are actively watching lies being told to try and change the narrative. We have video. We have more video than we've ever had in any point in history. This is not like he said, then she said, then he said that she, this is not getting passed down from generations. We have documentation, we have video, we have audio, we have witnesses on the ground who said this is what happened. And yet the right is already trying to alter that history so that it will be muddled in years to come. And that's scary, but it's also fascinating. And maybe it's how I'm wired, and maybe it's just because I'm old, but I'm sure when I was in my 20s, I would have gotten worked up and gotten angry about it and maybe gone and protested, but I just sit back and watch now. let's start there. Let's open the floor there. We can talk about religion or politics, but that was the theme, was watching the changing of history, or watching history happen, or validity, however you want to explain it. I said we'd be focused, and I just tossed out 3 sort of separate topics right off the bat.
Well, I'm going to say, Mike, you should go first.
Oh, I was going to say you should go first.
Oh, boy.
But
I'm going to say I'm going to shut up because I just talked for like 5 minutes and nobody wants to hear any more of me.
I I don't know. You're right in that it's a fascinating time to watch. I mean, I for myself, when I watched what was happening on TV on the 6th of January, I literally was sickened. It was the same. It was the same for me as watching Mr. Floyd being murdered. It was the same kind of like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening, and I'm watching this. And then to see, as far as the insurrection goes, as far as people like, oh well, it was like tourism. It was like tourists coming through the building. What? Really? I mean, these people were in mortal danger, and now they're trying to say it didn't happen. And I have no explanation. I don't know why they would. I can't. I just don't.
Well, are you talking why politicians would lie? Because the quote you gave was from a politician, I can't remember his name, but he went on the floor and said, you wouldn't have known it was different. You would have thought it was, and then there's a picture of him showing how scared he was hiding behind a Secret Service member. They're just towing the political line. They're told, get in line or you will be voted out of office. This is the narrative we're pushing. So I understand why they do it, because
they're I understand it from
feckless
that point,
cowards.
Right. Well, but I guess who's to blame for that? We elect them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so.
Well, one thing I said last week toward the end was that, see, you and I come from the same small town, and I always insult my small town, and gleefully so, but I got a little somber last week because I always make fun of them, like, oh, small town stupid, but it is sad in a way that I said that these people are intellectually incurious. They don't want to understand life. They want life to contort to their belief system. They want what they want, not what is. And so, yeah, we vote them into office, and then we can willfully deny reality if it doesn't match our inner needs or wants, I suppose.
I guess. The other thing that's maybe something with that too is like if you're searching for information on the internet, it's hard to even tell what's true or false anymore. So I mean, if you hadn't have seen the video of that, I mean, you'd have to live under a rock or in a cave probably. But I mean, I used to be in the other camp. I think we talked about that the first time I was on.
Mm-hmm.
And I never paid attention to news. I listened to sound bites. I mean, I was too busy with other stuff to even think about, but I would hear a little sound bite and have the knee-jerk reaction and go from there. And I finally learned to not do that and to take it in, investigate a little bit or whatever. But it seems like nobody here still wants to do that, which is kind of what you already said. But I don't.
Well, you said it nicer than I did.
I mean, it's work. It's work, but it's work. It's work to do that. And if you're already, I guess my thought is if you're already working 40 or 50 or 60 hours a week and you're busy with your kids and you're busy with your life, that's more work that you don't want to do. I mean, had I never have gotten hurt the first time and been off work for like a year, I probably wouldn't be any different. I probably would still be, but I had time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I had time to dig into things, and I don't, and it was out of boredom, is more or less. So, people don't have the time to look into stuff, so they hear what they hear and they go with that. And, of course, liberals are dumb, so you can't talk to them. I don't know. I don't know. It's just, I think it's too much work for people, to be honest.
I mean, that's a nice way of putting it. It's a lot better. It's a lot more compassionate than my take. My counter would be that, and maybe this is expecting too much of people, just change the fucking channel. Like literally, that's all it takes sometimes, because given how often Tucker Carlson has been in the news since January, given the things he has been saying, the misinformation he is spreading, you don't have to swallow that misinformation whole. I mean, if all you're going to listen to is sound bites, find sound bites that are factual, I guess would be my argument. And I hear you, people don't. So it's a combination of what I said earlier. People don't want to hear factual. They just want to hear what they want to hear so they can feel angry or justified in their anger. And I get what you're saying, that they don't have time to search out truth. So it's, they don't have time to read books or
time or the desire
or that's what I said, the desire. And so, it's a combination.
I feel like we're taking up too much time. The two white guys are talking way too much here.
I'm waiting for him to jump in. I gave a big pause after Dalton stopped talking last time. I'm like, all right.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess it's like one of those things where I can't really speak to, oh boy, in a world where you have to be politically correct, it's so difficult to speak.
No, it's not. Just fucking talk. Let's not worry about shit anymore.
Don't worry about it.
We always talk about like what we can and cannot say, and I think we need to start just saying it.
Yeah, I think that what happens is, like, here's the thing. If you look throughout history, right, particularly the history of this country and then the people who founded this country and all that stuff, right, there's a real,
I think Eminem called that white America.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So there's a long history of looking at the horrific things that one has done and then sanitizing them in a way that makes it look like you're the victor of said whatever encounter, right? Like, it's just kind of what we do as a nation. Like, our whole history is told from one particular perspective with one particular aim. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And like, when I think I told you this the other day, I think I was reading Walt Whitman. Was it Whitman?
Yeah, I think you were. I don't remember. Yeah,
it was Leaves of Grass, whatever, right? And I was just like cracking up because he wrote this thing in like 1890 something or 1850 something, whatever it was. It was like about 5 years away from massive Native American genocide and the Civil War and all these other. It's just like, but he's talking about the gloriousness of America and how amazing America is and how America is the country of countries and the dream of dreams and the things that make this thing amazing and blah, 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 just all this stuff. And I was just like, oh my God, like, dude, like for you, right?
I was just going to say, can't that be the dichotomy? True. It can't both things be true at the same time?
It also wasn't true.
Yeah, no, but I'm saying that's the dichotomy. It's true and not true at the same time. It all depends on.
It wasn't ever true. Like that. I mean, that whole idea of cowboys and all this other stuff, those people didn't look like John Wayne. They were dirty, sick, poor people, and half the people were sick and died. Like, it wasn't pleasant.
Oh, yeah, yeah, I agree with that.
It wasn't some like utopia. Do you know what I mean? Like this country is almost fundamentally, like, if we're talking about something from birth, like there's a congenital birth defect that this country has that is to believe its own bullshit over and over and over and over and over again. And the problem is when you talk about religion, this is where we tie it back in. See, we don't go on a tangent. We tie it back in, right? Here's what happens, right? You start telling a lie, and then you kill all the people, or the people all die off who know it's a lie. And then people keep perpetuating like it's the truth. And you do that for long enough. And what we call it is religion, right? Essentially.
This is true.
That's essentially what we call it, right? But in this country, what goes on is religion, in the way that there is, like, I don't know who said that God is dead. I mean, Sartre, I can't roll my R's very well these days. It's all the drugs I did in the 60s. I think, was it he who said that God is dead, right? But I mean, like,
Probably Marx, you commie.
right. No, but I mean, in a practical sense, we don't have God as the center of our community life, our work life, our home life. Like, God is no longer the center of it, right? Something else has replaced it. A kind of nationalism, a kind of consumerism, a kind of blend of patriotism. You know what I mean? These things, that is the new religion, and it's no
Well,
different than any of the other bullshit things.
let me interrupt just to the question. Was
Sure.
God ever at the center, or isn't that the pipe dream of make America great again, that God was at the center in the 50s when it wasn't true, or
I
God was at
mean,
the center in
that's,
the
but see, but
depression? Like,
this is what I mean. Like, and I won't say, like, I'll say Americans, because I'll throw everybody in there because we're all part of the same mix. Like, this is the thing, right? Like, the things that are the problem in the Black community are the problems in the white community. They just take longer to show up because it just has to spread through more of you before it reaches a critical mass of whatever the percentage is that it takes for something to be noticed, right? If Black people are only 12%, and let's say out of that 12%, we make that 12% 100. Let's say it takes 15% of something. When 15% of the people are affected, then everybody notices it, let's just say, right? So in the white community, 15% of, like, what, 200 million? Do you know what I mean? Right? Like, I don't know what the numbers are. Maybe it's 150. That's a lot
I
of
was going to
fucking
say, I think you're
people.
shooting high, because I
But
think,
it might be 150
you
million,
know,
might be somewhere around there. There's 330 million people in the country, and I think the white people are the majority of the people, but maybe not when everybody adds up. Maybe it's only 50% or something.
I was
I
going to
don't
say,
know.
I think we're
I
reaching
don't. I
50%.
don't. I don't know
For
what it
now.
is.
Yeah,
For
yeah.
now.
Well, we're about to dip under it. Yeah,
Right. But I
which
mean,
is
but
how
you're
Trump got
still,
elected. But
but you're
yeah,
still talking about 160 million people, right? So 15% of 160 million is very different than, 15% of 12% of 330 million, which I don't know how to do math that quick. So somebody else figure that out. But you know what I mean? And so what happens in the Black community, it happens quickly. And then all of a sudden, 15 years later, there's an opioid crisis in the white community, very similar to that of the crack epidemic, or there's the whatever that stuff is that you people make out of bathroom cleaner and
meth.
shit. There you go.
I was going to say, I was very happy that you
Right.
said opioid and then crack, because I was going to push back and say there isn't an opioid epidemic in the Black
Well, it's
community,
meth,
because
right?
white
Wait.
doctors refuse to prescribe it to Black people.
Right,
You
exactly.
did, did did I hear you though? Did you say you people?
I did.
All right, I'm just checking. Just checking.
Just trying to, it's what we call Black privilege.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
No, I'm kidding. No, but like,
Well,
but
hasn't America's greatness and Walt Whitman's leaves? I mean, hasn't the hasn't it been the promise or the idea of what America could be or should be? Because that's the idea I get, is America has a history of racism, sexism, homophobia, and still has all of those things in current day. At the same time, we have people fighting against racism, homophobia, and sexism, and they're not thrown in jail because of those beliefs. They get shouted at sometimes, but it's like
I
I said
mean,
earlier, the dichotomy, the good and the bad. This is
all right. I mean, sure, right? Absolutely, 100%. You're
so
100%
but
correct.
so I don't. My point is, you can't discount and say America sucks because we've done all these horrible things, and you can't say America
No,
rules because we've done all these awesome things.
no.
We're
I
the sum of our parts. We're good and bad. We're light and dark. We're yin
but
and
here's the
yang.
thing. Here's the thing. And this is the issue. When people when people say the term white supremacy, right? What they mean is not that white people don't have to do anything. What they mean is that the accepted way of being is what white people have decided it should be. That's ultimately what it means, right? It doesn't really mean much more than that, to be honest. I mean, it does, but not really, because with that comes an unspoken agreement that it colors all of life to a degree, no pun intended, right? And in this particular case, I think that I can look when I look at history. Here's I guess here's the way that I'll make sense out of it. Because I'm trying to formulate my thoughts because it ultimately has nothing to do with white people, right? It has to do with this. When I read Walt Whitman's words, I know he's not talking about me, even though my people have been here longer and had more to do with the building of this country than than half the people who read those words and feel like they're American when their family got here after there was a 19 in the timeline. Do you know what I mean? Or not, even the 1950s. Like people who got here in the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s feel American. Their children feel American and read the words of Walt Whitman and go, yeah, he's talking about me, because he ultimately is. And when I read those words, I'm fundamentally aware of the fact that he's absolutely not talking about me, even though I'm an American.
Does Candace Owens feel the same way you do?
I don't know if she does or doesn't. I would imagine that if she thinks that Walt Whitman was, and listen, I can't talk about Whitman specifically because maybe Whitman was a huge abolitionist, right? Like I honestly don't know, right? So I will use him loosely, right? When I read those words, like I guess here, we'll take it out of Whitman and put it to the Constitution. When they said all men are created equal, they didn't mean me. They're very clear about that. They're very clear about the fact that that's not what they meant. They didn't ultimately mean you either. They mean you now because you're a land owning white male. Do you know what I mean? But that's really what they meant. They meant white men with power. That's what it meant, right? So if we're going to decide that we can retroactively apply all those things to mean everybody who's now considered an American, and we're going to collectively accept that as being the truth, right? Then I would say, sure, I can read Whitman's words and I can do all that. I would argue, not argue, I would posit that in the minds of the average, when I was in Boston and the woman with the Irish accent told me the great, she must have been 90, she was a day, right? On the T, go back to Africa nigger. She didn't see that that was really weird. You know what I mean? She didn't think that there was anything odd about the fact that she still had a thick Irish accent and that I'm the one who is fucked up for being here. I'm not saying she's fucked up for being here either. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is like, it's weird. You know what I mean? Like, it's weird that in this country, I'll make this a personal thing because I can't speak for all people. I feel like when I read American history, they're not talking to me. And I feel like the accomplishments and just the way that Black culture and Black people are woven into the fabric of what this country actually is. And that if anybody, if you want to talk about rising up through hardships and facing up to stuff and being brave and blah, 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 it's like, really, like Black people don't fit that mold for what do you know what I mean? Like all the stuff that this country is supposed to be about, but it doesn't feel that way. And I know that facts don't care about my feelings. You know what I mean? Like I get that, but it is weird to tie it all back in. When I look at the thing on January 6th, I'm like, well, of course. Like everybody knew this was going to happen. Every Black person knew this day was coming. We've been talking about, but like, you know what I mean? Like,
I wasn't surprised by it at all. I wasn't surprised, shocked, sickened. I'm like, oh yeah, we talked about this before. It seemed like the natural
like,
conclusion to,
like, of course it is.
Yeah.
But I'm also not surprised that everybody's trying to deny it because
that's where I was going. Yeah. Bring it back home.
That's what has happened. All that, like, if you ask white people in 1960, is this race, is everything's going on racist? They will say, no, absolutely not. Things are so much better than they used to be. There's no race problems anymore. And if you ask white people in the 70s and in the 80s and in the 90s and now, and maybe what we need to figure out is that maybe white people don't actually know. Like maybe history knows. Maybe white people know in retrospect what is fucked up and racist, but maybe in the reality, maybe there's, and like, do you ever notice like in your own life personally? I do this all the time. I look back at things in my life and I go, oh, that was an opportunity to do this thing. And I just couldn't recognize it. I just couldn't see that that's what was being offered to me because it didn't look like what I expected it to. And then why can't that be true in all these other areas of my life that I can only see them in retrospect?
Well, that's, I was just going to say, because that's life in a nutshell. It is very, I think, I don't know if difficult's the right word, but I think very rarely does anybody in any walk of life see or become aware of exactly what's happening when it's happening. It's only in retrospect that we do look back, or it is explained to us what happened.
I mean,
and so, I mean, I'll tell you, I'm gonna go inappropriate, given everything, all the history bombs you just dropped all over us. I'm gonna tell a story that's inappropriate to the seriousness of it, and I have to now because it popped into my head. It just popped fucking in there. It's like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. My mind was blank, and then I said we only understand things in retrospect, and boom, it right there popped right in. I was at an open mic in Los Angeles, in a bar downtown, and the bar was attached to a hotel. And I did my time, and afterward, I'm at the bar with my buddy Tom, and we're hanging out. And this woman from the audience is over, and she's talking to us. She's talking to me, and she is saying shit like, "Yeah, I'm only in town for tonight on business. I've got a room upstairs right now." And I'm going, "Oh, really? Well, good for you. Yeah, what kind of business are you in? Oh, that's neat." And finally, she got sick of talking to me and left. And Tom was like, "Dumb fuck. She wanted you to go up to the hotel room with you." And I'm like, "Huh? What? You know, like me?" Like it was only after it was over and I looked back and listened to, like, even telling it right now, I'm saying, she was saying, "Yeah, I have a hotel room upstairs. My company's paying for it. I'm leaving in the morning." And I'm just like, "Uh-huh. Yeah. Wow. Good for you." So yeah, we only understand things after they happen. A really bad analogy for what you were talking about, but it popped into my head and I felt the unnecessary need to share it.
I mean, it's funny because I've had that situation happen to me and I was blinded personally for the same kind of foolishness that I think we're talking about. When those kind of things happen to me, I didn't believe it was happening at the time because at that point in my life, I actually believed that women of quality would never do such a thing.
Yeah.
Like this attractive, well-spoken, well-dressed, well-to-do woman would never want to have a one-night stand.
Oh, I wouldn't take it that far.
I
believe that. I just, it would never happen to me. Like,
okay, either way.
Yeah.
But like, it's like my belief about that was like women wouldn't do that, even though it always shocked me when I was a kid and I would call up some girl's house and her parents would go, "Oh, that Antar boy, he's so sweet." Because I'd be like, "Hello, Mrs. So-and-so, this is Antar. May I speak with so-and-so?" And they're like, "Oh, he's so sweet." I'm like, what makes you think nice guys don't like to fuck? Like, what makes you think that? Like, what makes you think that I also don't want to bury my dick balls deep in your daughter? Like, just because I'm nice doesn't mean I don't want to fuck her. You know what I mean? The two things have nothing to do with each other, And it took me a long time to realize that women were that way also.
Oh, yeah.
Just because they're nice and sweet doesn't mean that they don't want to go out and get laid sometimes. And that doesn't make them bad people. It doesn't make them stupid. It doesn't make them anything. It makes them human beings who want to go out and have sex sometimes, And it's like, once I realized that, I was able to see those kinds of situations much more clearly. I would argue that most of what we talk about in these situations is based on the same thing: faulty beliefs. You know what I mean? Like, it's your beliefs that allow you to see something, right? Like,
Well,
what you believe
or not
is
see it,
gonna
or be
allow-
blind
it's
to
like,
it.
right. It's like a filter. Like, your belief system is the filter through which you arguably see everything. It's not actually facts in reality. It's your beliefs. We like to
Let
think it's facts, but it's not, you know?
well, let me interrupt you to bring Mike
Yes,
into this
please.
then, because
Yes. Yes,
um,
please. Make me stop talking.
well, both of us stopped talking because
Well, I'm
Mike.
just happy to know that I'm not alone in having that happen to me too. Oh, duh.
Right.
You said, well, to be fair, that was the only time any woman's ever hit on me. Except for when I was at the Hard Rock with Barrett and I'm just talking to this woman, and this was just 2 years ago. So I absolutely was married and not even trying anything. But,
right.
we walked out of the store and you're like, dude, she was Indian. I'm like, huh? I was just talking to her. What are you talking about? I still completely fucking clueless
Yeah.
because, again, I'm
Sorry.
married, not trying to hit on her, just talking to her. And you said she was throwing vibes.
Yeah.
So earlier you said you were sickened by January 6th. Did you say you were surprised? I think you said you were surprised. No? Okay.
Totally not surprised.
Okay. Because I thought that's what was going to be the compare and contrast, is how, like, belief systems, how you didn't see this coming, and or.
Oh, no.
Okay.
No,
I
just,
mean,
and like I said, I mean, sickened in the way that I don't enjoy watching people die, get seriously hurt.
Well, no.
I mean,
Yeah.
I
didn't. You said you watched George
Floyd.
Floyd. I never watched that because I don't need to see it.
I couldn't watch that to its conclusion. I could not. I couldn't. I saw part of it and I'm like, nope, not watching this.
Yeah.
No,
I never saw the Daniel Pearl video either. I remember when that was big. I'm like, not happening. All right. Well, that throws my question sideways because I was going to ask something along those lines about the belief. Well, then let me pivot to, you are in the town I always insult. What is the general consensus when you're out and about, or is there a sense of that you are isolated in your beliefs, or is there commonality? Some people believe that the 6th was necessary. Some people believe it was Antifa, or where. I'm not asking you to speak for Oconomowoc, but
to be honest, I don't really know because I don't really talk to too many people here. I'm pretty isolated in my own little shack. But it seems to me when I get into different conversations with some people there, most of them seem to have the opposite viewpoint that I do, and I always find that interesting. Even people that are like, oh, that's surprising that you would think that, but it's still the same town. It's the same town that you left.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just it's bigger. We have more condominiums now. You can't see the lakes anymore, but otherwise, it's the same town that you left. I don't want to insult it because I live here, but I mean, it's this is a town that always seems to think that it's something that it's not. Like I always used to say, we're trying to be Brookfield. Brookfield is an upper class, or it used to be anyway, an upper class suburb of Milwaukee, and we're trying to be that, and we're not.
I never got that sense. I always got the sense that Oconomowoc was because Milwaukee had black people in it. That Oconomowoc was, we're not you. We're exclusive. We're better than that. When I moved there, that was the impression I got. That it was.
I think that's what I was trying to get. Maybe it didn't come across that way, but yeah, that's kind of. I always say that there's 3 types of people that live here. There's the people that think they're rich. There's the people that are really rich, and then there's the rest of us. And usually the really rich people are pretty okay. It's the people that think they have money and they can talk down to people and force people to do what they want. There seems to be an awful lot of those in this area. And then regular people like me who, we're just here. I grew up here. Here's where I am. So, but it still seems to be fairly red around here.
Well, let me go personal then. I don't know that I've ever asked you this. And there's no real answer, and I do this without judgment. Why are you there? I mean, you said I grew up here. Here's where I am. I spent a lot of time there, but I got the fuck out. And when I look on Facebook and I see the people that stay there, I don't see, and I'm, again, shouldn't say this, but I don't see much in the way of, and I'm, you'll confirm this. I don't see much in the way of development or growth as a person. I see, stagnation, because they didn't get out and experience the world,
Right.
Or if they did, it frightened them and they ran home. Like the people I like from Oconomowoc are the peoples that do travel, that do read, that do, experience life. And
right.
And when I say that incorrectly when I say the people I do like, because I like all my dumb friends. I don't care that they, they're red. I feel more like about it than anything else, but I don't like, God damn it, how do you vote Trump? So how did you end up there? How did you?
How did I wind up staying here?
Yeah.
Well, the first time I left, I wound up going down to a suburb of Houston, Texas, and that was horrifying. It's just I would rather,
Mexicans.
No, not necessarily. A lot of crime. It was a
ripe opportunity for a joke, and everybody just sat there like it was a goddamn serious question. Mexicans? God damn you guys! No laughter at all.
I couldn't keep the hubcaps on the car.
There we go.
No,
roll them up.
No, for I'll get canceled too. Good. Like I went to a Taco Bell one time, and there's bullet holes in the drive-through window. And I'm like, oh, okay. And the only job I could get down there was third shift working at a convenience store. And all the convenience stores in that particular area had the 2-inch bulletproof glass.
Yeah.
Just I'm like, this is I'm small town kid from Wisconsin coming down here. This is too much for me. So that kind of freaked me out, and I came back home. And then I don't know. I'm wanting to get out of here now, and right now it's just financial. The only reason I'm still here. Well, financial and my girlfriend's parents are still living, so she doesn't want to go away.
I was going to say you can be poor anywhere. This is America,
right? Right. Yeah, I know. So that's.
You don't have to justify it. I didn't mean to throw you on the chopping block.
No. But the other reason too is I don't know that you know this, but my dad died when I was 16.
Mm-hmm.
And so I always kind of had a feeling like, okay, well, I have to be here for my mom. And so that's kind of why when I came back from Texas, I tried to go to Waukesha. No, I went to Waukesha first, and then I went to Texas. And that doesn't matter. But I always kind of felt like, well, I have to watch out. I have to be here for my mom, and I have to be here for my sister because my dad's not around anymore. And then my sister was married, and she was out. So I'm like, okay, well, somebody's got to be here to take care of my mom. And then when she passed away, by that time I was married and had roots here. So
yeah.
But I mean, it's I kind of want to go away from here though. I don't know where, and I do like it. I mean, it's a nice area as far as scenery.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty. I remember that. I honestly have not been back since much long after graduation.
I think the last time you were here was when you did that little gig at Olympia. And
I never went past Olympia. Yeah, I went skirted
in
the
highway.
I could go deeper into the town. Nope, back on the highway and gone.
Yep.
I thought about it, but then I'm like, nah, I'm close enough already.
How many times have you driven past it? I mean, there's the exit, not stopping.
Not today.
Yeah.
I think I don't want to say the happiest I was, but when the high school reunion I did go to, I'm like, fine, fuck it, I'll go just to see what's going on. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed talking to almost everybody. But I was kind of happy that it wasn't in Oconomowoc proper. It was
right.
It was outside of Waukesha. They couldn't, I don't know why, but it was 20-30 minutes away from Oconomowoc, which was odd, but I'm like, this feels appropriate.
Yep. I think the last one we did was in Watertown.
Yeah, and the only problem with going to it is then they kept inviting me to more. I'm like, I saw you guys once. That's enough.
Yeah. I think I went to the 25th or something. Like, I'm good. Maybe if I'm alive by the time we have a 50th or 60th.
That's what I said. I said, if I'm not dead, 50.
But I mean, like in a world of Facebook, what does it matter? You know what I mean? Like, you used to go to reunions because these are people you hadn't seen or been in touch with in 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years. Now it's like, I know about everybody's kids, and this one's kid plays the trombone, and this one's kid does ballet, and this one's kid races go-karts, and this one just got a promotion selling real estate. It's like, I know all the stuff about the people. I don't need to go. And the people that I actually really care about consistently, I talk to. Do you know what I mean?
That's how I am too. And I'll say this, and then I'll shut up. I'm just stating this because it seems to be the truth. I'm not saying it for any other reason other than I have observed that the people most interested in our reunions are the people that never left. Like, it's not like, I'm not going to name names, but I got a classmate down in Florida that I like. That's a good guy that, I sort of stay in touch with on Facebook. He's not the one going, hey, got to get back to Oconomowoc. It's the people that stayed there that are, gung ho, reunions coming up. I'm like, yeah, but you guys all see each other anyway. Like, you all still live there. And so I found that, I guess, odd. It is what it is.
It's fancier than seeing each other at the bar.
That's where they had the last one, though.
A different bar, then. A different bar. That was always my excuse, too, when they said, well, why aren't you? I'm like, I'll just go to the bar later and run into all there. What do I got to go to this crap for?
Yeah. Well, let me ask you guys this, because I hear, I'll say you people yet again.
I was just going to say you people, too.
I know, because great minds think alike.
And so do ours.
Exactly.
I was going to say white American. White America.
But like, I have not traveled all throughout all the 50 states in this country. I have not been to the deep South since I was a child, really, right? Unless I flew in and flew out, fly into Florida, Miami, do a gay fly out, fly into Nashville, fly out, you know what I mean? But like, so I don't know what Alabama, Louisiana, deep Florida, shit like that. I don't know what those places are like, But I've been out in the Midwest a bit. I've been Northeast and a handful of the Western places, I haven't had anybody do anything to me that was fucked up and racist and shitty. Most of that stuff happened here in the liberal Northeast. You know what I mean? Like, I think I got pulled over in Indiana going 75 in a 65 or 80 in a 65. You know what I mean? And the guy had me dead to rights, out of state. You know what I mean? No reason to be nice. And he gave me a warning, told me to pin the cruise control, at 65 and have a nice trip. And I was like, what the fuck's going on here? I got a hot white girl sitting next to me. I'm speeding. I'm from out of state. Like, he had every I knew I was getting a ticket because I was out here in the Midwest where everybody's racist. And I had nothing like that happen to me. You know what I mean? Now, maybe I just have been extremely lucky, but I remember one of the first tours I ever did was this guy, Larry Mitchell, man. It was like a van tour. We were touring and he would go to a club. We'd be in some small backwater town in Pennsylvania, New York State, some little place. And there'd be somebody at the gig who'd be like, oh my God, you guys are so great. You can come stay with us tonight. He'd cancel the hotel room because this is back when you could do that and they wouldn't charge your credit card, and we'd stay in strange people's houses, and I'd be like, what the fuck is going on? We don't know these people. Like, what are you doing? And it's what we did, and they'd make us breakfast, and it was always fine. And but then I talk to my white friends, and they tell me how bad white people are. But that, not to say that I haven't had racist experience, because I've had plenty of them, but not in the way and in the places where people told me I was supposed to. So I say all that to say this: when you guys say small town and you call it a red state, in my mind, that implies a lot of stuff that I have not actually seen in these red states in small towns. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, I think I can help you with that a little bit. I used to work for a black fella in the postal service. I drove for him. He was my boss, and I loved him. He was a great guy. But you wouldn't believe what I heard about him behind his back, because he wasn't there. Oh, you're working for that, or
Barrett, say it quick, just so we are
the N word I can't say.
That color
nighttime,
or how's the
nearsighted?
Yeah, how's the nearsighted guy treating you?
I'm confused.
I mean,
Barrett, can you help me out here? I have no
was,
idea what's.
But I mean, it's there's a lot of they're not around. We can be talkful and say whatever the hell we want.
Yeah, that's what I remember from high school too. Is I remember showing up or actually before high school, I moved from Milwaukee to Appleton, and that's where I first experienced the N-word. White people saying it, and I just remember you hate these black people. And I don't see any in your town. Who do you hate? Like, I just came from Milwaukee where all my friends were black, and you hate these people that don't live here. I'll put another spin on what Michael just said. I think it is in ownership. And I fundamentally believe, and this is why I insult my friends, but I still like them. Like, I know a lot of people that over the past 4 years of Trump were like, nope, not talking to him anymore. Fuck them. Fuck everybody on the right. And I can't do that. Like, I'll still talk to my idiot friends because they say the same thing about me. Tim, that fucking faggot liberal. Dalton's told me, a couple, like Tim was just too liberalist, whatever. And I don't care that they say this about me because I know who I am. It's about ownership. And I believe that most people exist drifting to the center. The problem is the wings are the loudest. The AOCs and the Tucker Carlsons and the Jim Jordans and the Ilhan Omars. And what people in the center, left and right do, and I'm guilty of this, is we jump over the people that are closest to us and judge everybody by the extreme. And so everybody that voted for Trump for whatever reason, and I know full well people did it in 2016 just to throw a grenade into the mix. They're like, fuck it, I don't like Hillary, I'm voting for this guy. And it goes back to what Michael said up front, which is they didn't put a lot of thought into it. They didn't research who he was as a person. They just went, not a politician, fuck it, voting for him. It didn't mean they loved him. It didn't mean they supported him. But a lot of the red state is judging every person that happens to vote Democrat by AOC, or the parent they see in the grocery store that has the shittiest kid ever, and they're trying to negotiate with it instead of saying, fuck you, get in the car. They're like, sweetie,
Yeah.
sweetie. Or so we group think, we lump everybody in with the other side, and that's what creates the division. And when you interact with people, in part, you have what Michael said, you have people that are being nice to your face, but not otherwise. But then you actually have people who are just generally good, nice people that don't vote like you do. And it doesn't mean they hate other people. They seriously believe, like, there are people that seriously believed Trump was going to be a good businessman, just like other people seriously believe that Bernie Sanders should create equality among everybody by taxing the unholy fuck out of billionaires. I mean, it doesn't make them bad or racist or suspicious of the other side. It's just you look at the other side and you see the worst in that side instead of commonality between you and the other person.
I mean, I think this is what, when we talk about the irredeemable thing, it comes back to that, which is something we haven't talked about in a long time in any in-depth way, but it's that for all of you new to the podcast, it's that concept of, between the left and right politically, there seems to be like both sides are irredeemable in the eyes of the other, because it's not good versus bad, it's good versus evil.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's a very different thing. It's good versus something that has no hope. Like each one of us feels like we're the rebellion and they're the empire, which is funny. But I want to tie this back to something that Mike said about people just not wanting to put in the work. I think that's what it is. I think that we as Americans are fundamentally lazy thinkers. Do you know what I mean?
I absolutely agree with that.
I totally agree with that. Totally.
As a culture, because you could argue that, well, yes, racism, blah, 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 sexism, gender stuff, all these things, and people disliking each other goes on all around the world and has for whatever, right? And all that stuff is true. But there are some cultures that really pride themselves on education, right? There's some cultures that really they think that education is really important, and I think that having a well-rounded education and having skills in a bunch of the arts and stuff is really important. And whether that stuff is or isn't, I can't say. But what I can say is that I find that when I meet people who have had what we might call a classical education in that sense, they tend to be not necessarily more open-minded, but they tend to be less lazy thinkers. Even if I disagree with them, their thinking isn't lazy. It just might be myopic, you know what I mean? But it's not lazy, you know what I mean? Like they're not, and I feel like we have decided that like book learning is something for them, liberal, liberal high society, whatever, you know what I mean?
Kind of. I'm glad you brought that up at the end, because that's where I was going to go, because I think that goes to division and ownership again, what I said a minute ago. I could be wrong. I'm probably wrong, but my what I witness and what I see is, I believe the right, or the extreme right, I'll label it that way, is aligned with what you just said. Liberal universities are liberal institutions that give out degrees in transsexual studies that have no merit in the real world. And then the far left is, everybody needs a degree in transsexual studies and nobody should be a mechanic. And that's why I find it sad that someone like Biden comes along and says, we need 2 years of community college. There's nothing wrong with being an HVAC worker. Just get a simple degree and, you earn a good fucking decent living as a plumber, So I think it's both sides. I think the left looks down on manual labor, or that's the belief, that the left looks down on manual labor, and the belief is the right looks down on book learning. So again, where is the crossover? Where's the gray zone? Where are the shades of pink? I just had to throw that reference in at the end. We've done it like 5 times on this.
I know.
But it's so bad. I haven't seen the movie in years.
Here's what I'll say. Don't say the name of the movie. And whoever guesses the name of the movie gets a free copy of Nathan's new CD and the new Katie Henry CD. But that's all we're going to tell you.
Yes.
That's it. All right. And Mike, you don't count because you're here. You'll get a free copy anyway, but you're not.
Well, I think once it's on Spotify, most people get a free copy.
Yeah,
but we're bumping up against an hour. We should start wrapping it up. I don't know that we stayed entirely on topic. I don't think maybe we drifted.
No,
I don't know.
I mean, but we were in the same lane.
I just wanted to add something real quick.
I'm not cutting off. I'm just saying let's do closing thoughts.
Yes.
Okay, well, I was telling you, Nathan, earlier, I was just reading an article because after you sent me what the topic was, I was kind of curious. And you mentioned the extreme right. And I found it fascinating and I think this was in The Guardian. And I don't know what side they tend to sway. I think they're a little bit on the liberal side, aren't they?
I believe so, but
But at any rate, the with all the evangelical Christians, I'm paraphrasing, so I don't know how to say this, but it's causing, they termed it like an allergic reaction to religion. So religion is just slowly with the younger kids and up millennials and whatnot, they're seeing how evangelicals are using the religion and oh Jesus, that's after 10. I'm stumbling all over words now. But the evangelicals, they're like poisoning the idea of religion to the younger generations because of what they're doing and how they're using it, as far as as far as politics go.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I kind of actually think that's a positive thing.
I made a joke on here a while ago that if anybody watched would get me in trouble, where Barrett and I were talking about how the highest suicide rate is among white males of a certain demographic, certain age. And I'm like, good, bye. And Barrett was the one that was more compassionate. It's like, well, these are people that are hurt. And I'm like, well, yeah, then they shouldn't vote against their own best interest. But, I hear you. I have that evil, gleeful side in me when I hear that. But I also, Barrett and I discussed this repeatedly. We both wish we had faith because there is something beautiful and comforting in true faith. I do agree with you that it has been corrupted, and that steers me away from it.
Right.
So,
right. I had written something a while back about my lack of faith and wishing I could let my brain go that direction. I just can't. I don't know.
Barrett, closing thoughts?
Yeah.
Or not.
No, yeah. I mean, it's just something that like they're never short. That's all.
But what do you people think about this?
Right, exactly. Well played, sir. Well, as a black person,
by the way, very quickly before we get into this, I do want to say that I'm actually kind of angry right now. I just realized I'm angry. Before we started recording, there was a dog giving Mike kisses, and it was like, oh, and he said, oh, he'll be coming in and out of frame the entire time. Haven't seen the goddamn dog the entire episode.
This is Sam.
Yeah.
Come here, Scooter. Come here, buddy. Hi, buddy.
There we go. All right,
Scooter and Sam.
I did that to buy some time for Barrett, who was gathering his thoughts.
They were being very good at sleeping.
That's a cute dog. It's not even gathering my thoughts. It's just figuring out if I even want to say it.
Yes, say it. I said that earlier. We need to stop censoring ourselves.
It's not even censoring for that. It's just like when it comes to the religion thing, the thing is that like, again, God is not at the center of you in the church anymore. Like, again, I don't know that God was ever at the center of church, right? I know Jesus says whenever two or more gathered there, that is a church. And maybe whenever two or more gathered in his name, that's a church. But it seems...
And Jesus also said that the path to my Father is through me, not the church. Like his whole point of existence was to provide access to God without a church, without anyone in the way of you, a priest, a rabbi, This
is what I mean. But like, so when we start to think about it, like when money becomes the new God, which is what it is these days, right? Like money is the new God, right?
Or define new, because hasn't money been the God?
No, it has been for a while,
quite a while.
But then maybe like, again, like it's, something we don't have to go into a deep dive into, but like, if we take ideas like defund the police, which most people, if you explain to them what it actually means, agree with it. Even conservative people agree with it when you explain what it actually means, right? But we know that that's a ridiculous name for it. It's just an absurd name for it. And the Democrats, as they say, as my people say, they steady coming up with stupid names for shit. You know what I mean?
Worst fucking at messaging ever.
Right. But I mean, but the thing is that, like, it's actually done on purpose. This is what I mean. Like, I don't think that the world is as bad as we think it is, right? Like when white people see black people, again, it has been my experience oftentimes that when I'm in a place where there's not a lot of black people around and I walk by a car, I often hear the doors shut and the alarm go off, even if I heard it go off already once or twice, because people forget. And I've seen it go off when I get near the car. People go, whoop, and do that. I've seen people pull their kids in close. I've seen people do all kinds of things. Now, maybe that has nothing at all to do with my skin color, right? It's possible, right?
Possible, but I've never seen it happen once in my life. So,
Right. But here's the thing. So white people can have a completely irrational fear of black people based on what they would call statistics that their own life has never borne out to actually be true.
let me
Right?
interrupt. Is it statistics or is it manipulated media coverage or movies or
I mean,
bullshit?
it doesn't matter. Whatever the reason is,
Okay.
the reason is it's not true though, right? Like most of the violence that's ever been visited upon either of you has probably not been at the hands of somebody, a person of color. That's just the truth, right? Most of the stuff that has ever happened to you, unless you grew up in a black neighborhood.
That's what I was going to say. The one time I got my ass kicked, it was because it was by a black kid, but
right,
fair enough. I was being
right.
white in that black neighborhood.
The black neighborhood.
Yeah.
But right, but like most of the stuff, most of the crimes, most of the girls in Oconomowoc get raped by little white boys, not black boys. The black boys from Milwaukee don't drive in there to rape white girls. It's not what they do. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know, I mean, at least I don't think they do. That's not what we talk about.
I was going to say, check with your Milwaukee branch because I don't know.
Right. I was saying the meetings that I go to, that's not what we do.
Yeah.
So, you know, and so like, I wonder if like much of this stuff is meant to keep us divided, right? Like,
oh, it absolutely is.
But I mean, like, because the reality is this: statistically speaking, I'm not likely to get shot by a police officer. Do you know what I mean? Statistically speaking, I'm not. It doesn't change the fact that I'm terrified when I get pulled over, right? Because I've seen a lot of videos of people who look like me getting shot by cops. But most of my interactions with cops are pretty benign. Or at worst, I get a ticket and I'm just pissed off. You know what I mean? But I'm alive. You know, not that that should be a feat. You know, I write that should, you know.
I made it out of that speeding ticket with only a ticket. Woo!
Right. That's like, the bar is quite low these days, right? But you know what I mean? Like, if like I understand that to a certain degree, my fear of police is artificial. It's manipulated, right? And I believe that white people's fear of black people is highly manipulated. That being said, my own experience, I hear what you guys say, that these white guys run around saying you work for this nigger and how's it like blah blah blah. See,
that was the N-word.
Right,
Mike was hinting.
Right.
Oh,
right. I don't like these nighttime Negroes.
Nightingale. I was wrong.
I had the surgery. No, I actually physically can't say it.
Right. That's awesome.
Well, I think it's I don't think it's black and white or black and I think it's and we're not gonna it is in this day and age, and it has been for a while. It's media manipulation. It's darkening OJ's skin. It's clickbait. It's this white cop is going to shoot this. Like, okay, we got to sign off. But it goes to, I think it was a Seattle Seahawk, a guy that was bipolar, went off his meds, a white football player that beat up his black girlfriend. And that was the headline. White football player beats up black girlfriend, racist, asshole, piece of shit. And then you read down, it's like, but it was a black girlfriend. He plays around black people like, he was bipolar. Like she said, he was having a manic episode. She was with him for a reason. And I doubt that reason was because she had an inferiority complex and liked being treated like shit. Whatever. I mean,
right.
But it was like the headline had to scream white on black crime because that got the clicks and made people angry. Okay, I got to shut up. I'm going to do one more example. But it's headlines and not content. This happened on Twitter today. The headline was, guy who drank 12 energy drinks a day had a heart attack, now wants to get them banned from something. And so I went down the Twitter feed and everybody was saying he drank 12 a day. He doesn't want kids drinking energy drinks. And they're like, why is this dumb fuck drinking 12 a day? Oh, no shit, you had a heart attack 12 a day. Oh, you're such an asshole. Like everything said that. But I clicked the article and it was his daughter, his 10-year-old daughter went into a store and said, I want one of those big monster drinks, and bought one. And he said, this is, and so the content was he learned through personal experience that it was a fuck up and he doesn't think kids should have it. But the headline screamed, hey, look what this asshole did to have a heart attack. And that's all people read. And that's all anybody reads is the headline. And this goes back to, and we'll close it out now. It goes back to sound bites. It goes back into not having the time to research something, lazy thinking, intellectually and curious. And that's what's keeping us divided.
That's exactly what it is. Right. Yeah.
Hey, if you have to change the name, that's another good name. Intellectually curious.
Yes, there you go.
All right. Could be. Yeah. All right, Mr. Michael, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, man. It's good to see you.
Thanks for having me. I love talking to you guys.
Yeah. Thanks for introducing us.
I love talking to you people.
I would promote the Rhodes Scholar, but you don't really do that. So
nah.
NathanTimmel.com is my website. We Are 100 is my book. And I just got a second review where someone said they read it in one sitting because they started reading, couldn't put it down. So I'm not saying you have to read it in one sitting, but you can check out my book and I hope you like it. And KatieHenryMusic.com and AntarGoodwin.com are where you can find my friend Barrett. The next album is in the bag. I've heard the songs. They're fucking fantastic.
Yeah, man, it's good stuff.
And they're starting to play again. So go to KatieHenryMusic.com to see tour dates, mostly 95-97% on the East Coast, but they will be expanding as the album comes out. So
indeed we will.
Biggest music festival in the Summerfest. You guys come here.
I've told them about Summerfest in the past.
Yeah.
Book a gig or several.
Yep. Yes. I actually gave him all the. Well, let's talk about this off air. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.